It's going down right now with the Joseph Bar podcast. You know what it is. Salute.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Joe's Bot podcast, brought to you part at YouTube. Find us, like, and subscribe. Today, we have an awesome guest, a very interesting conversation that we're going to be having here. And the individual that we have is Mr. Joey Ambrosini. Joey Ambrosini, you might see him in certain films such as The Jungle Room, The Vault, Panther documentary, My Adventures with Santa. We're going to be talking a lot about Joey. Welcome, Joey. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Man, I'm doing amazing. Thank you for joining us, man. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for being a guest here at the Joe's Bot podcast. I really appreciate it. How's your day?
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
How's your day, man?
My day was good. Just another day in quarantine. School, just keeping busy. Living the dream, thinking about what's to come when this quarantine is all done.
Man, you talk about quarantine, and man, it has really affected so many people in so many different ways. Just recently, we had a freeze here in Texas, and man, that took us by storm. But
I heard about that. I was like, how are you guys holding up?
We're doing fine. I'm we had good blessings and we're great. But you're from Monroe, Connecticut, the East Coast, and
Yes.
You do snow very well, don't you?
Yeah, this winter, it's like winter started pretty late, it was like snowstorms, it's like the beginning of winter was, just the weather and, the wind, but, here we are in February and this was like the month of the snowstorms.
Well, the groundhog said that we were going to have winter for another 9 weeks, sorry. The 9 years, right? Imagine.
Great.
Oh man. But that's one of the things, let me ask you, do you believe that climate change is occurring?
It's, I don't know. It's like, it's the kind of question you ask, if someone were to come up to you and say, do you believe in aliens? I think Texas
true,
is
man. Aliens are true. I'm telling you. Have you ever heard of
I believe it.
Have you ever heard of
just seeing what has gone on with Texas, it's like, it's definitely, it's definitely a theory, and I think it's being proven. But I think that that's just how the world is. Nothing we can do. It is what it is, really.
Yeah. Hey, so man, you're young, man. You're young. How young are you?
I'm 19 years old. I turned 20 this September. My birthday is September 17th. I was born in 2001. So yeah.
Man, you know what I was doing in 2001? I was graduating high school. 2001
Really?
was one of those years where we thought we were having a great time. Then all of a sudden, September 11th hit. And it shook us, it rocked us, but nonetheless, man, we're here, we're talking. Joey Ambrosini, man, I'm so excited because I always love hearing what the young mind is experiencing.
So can you say that one more time?
Yeah, I love hearing what the young mind in America is experiencing.
It's it's a very, it's literally when you start, it's basically, I don't want to call it like when you're dreaming, because you can always live the dream. I've always lived by, when it comes to a passion, don't speak hypothetically, make things happen. And I've also lived by the quote that I've always told myself: it's never too early or too late to chase your dream.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's also a grand time when you're starting out, because you get to really learn just think about it, being 30 years old and just starting to live your dream. You almost feel like you're the guy in the room who is like, I don't know anything, and you're filled with a room full of people that are the same age as you and know everything.
Right.
Nothing to be ashamed of, obviously, but it's like, it's always cool to start young. That way you can really gain your experience as the years go by. And this field that I'm in, the acting and entertainment world, I've I love it. I love it a lot.
Right.
It's a huge honor to be a part of. The people I've worked with have been phenomenal, and I see me working with the same people and newer people as the years keep going by, and I'm excited and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Well, and so that's you touched on an item that I really hear quite often from younger individuals that are trying to break into the acting scene. Um,
Right.
Oftentimes these individuals they're talking and they're saying, no, well, I want to be an actor or I want to be an actress, but quite honestly, how does one get into the process? So I want you to tell the listeners is what's your story? How did you get involved into acting?
That's honestly a question I get a lot from, people who know my work and stuff. It's like, hey, any tips on how to get started off? I mean, see, it's harder for me to really tell them how to start off. I do tell them, it, you know, if you're younger than I am, if like if you're in high school or anything, you might want to consider joining the drama club.
Mhm.
See, I went to Massac High School. I never joined the drama club because at Massac High School they didn't want people who can act. They wanted people who can sing. They put on
Okay.
musicals. Um, so it's like if you're not singing, then it's like you really serve no use to them. And it's like, okay, well, you know, but I definitely would have recommended that to many young minds. Then which minds I'll recommend it to in the future while my experience is boosting and I keep getting asked that same question. But
Everybody wants to know what the secret to success is, right? And the pro
well,
and but you tapped onto an interesting subject where you said, I can't tell people what to do. You can't. You literally can't. I agree with you 100%. There's no way you can tell somebody how to navigate life. But however, you have to create a plan of action is what we try to see. Now, tell me about this documentary that you have. You produced this documentary, Panther.
Panther Homecoming, yes, it is a see now the story behind that is 1 year before Panther Homecoming was in production, I did a documentary on this was based on my high school football team, the Panther Homecoming documentary. The homecoming game. It's like the grandest game of the season.
Right.
But the documentary I produced before that was also a documentary called Panther Brawl, which was a documentary about my high school wrestling team, which, I really have no use for anymore. I mean, I was pretty ashamed at the outcome of it, but,
Right.
I also took it as a learning lesson. But at the same time, I was also getting messages and phone calls from Massac High School football team saying that they want their documentary. But I said, okay, this one, I want to see it bigger. And, because, the football is like the kingdom sport of every high school. So, in which I'm still very, I still keep in touch with the football team, the football
Right.
coach. Um, it was a feature length documentary, which was kind of more than what I expected it to be. But, it was awesome. And honestly, every single time, people wrote a review about it, they said it brought back their high school days, because we filmed, the pep rally, we filmed the homecoming game, we filmed the banquet, which, really is what you needed to do to put in a very meaningful and emotional story. Because think about it, I mean, these kids on the football team, it was their last season playing, which is always the most emotional. I was never on the football team, but I can honestly predict when you're on a sports team, your most depressing seasons are your first time because, you have, you just started and it's grand. But then next thing you know, the most depressing is your last season because it's like, you think back, it's like saying, it only seems like yesterday I was starting out. But
Hmm.
the football team was just awesome to work with. And the guy I produced it with, Rocky Chiraki, it was such an honor to be able to produce it with him. And the COVID hit, which jeopardized our plans to have a big premiere for it with a big red carpet show and lots of people in attendance. But thanks to COVID, those plans were jeopardized. So what we did was we ended up doing it on YouTube, like YouTube Premiere. We had it live, and we got like thousands of people watching. You know, our people are, you know, the views are still increasing. I think we're at 1,800 right now.
Okay.
We had hundreds of people watching when it streamed live,
Right.
and you know, I was just so honored to be able to give the football team and you know have that kind of moment. And
That sounds like that was a gift to the high school principal and to the high school body. I mean, it's a gift in itself because again, they can always reference that film. When I
right,
saw it, I was able to view it, and I think I told you this. I go, man, this definitely resonates with a big audience because again, you were able to capture so many emotions, so many interviews. You were able to capture the ins and outs of a day in the life of a high school football player, pretty much.
right,
Or and a coach, because the coaches were there,
yeah,
great
absolutely.
film. I want to give you props on that because it was a greatly produced film. If you have not seen Panther Homecoming, it can be found on YouTube. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. You can actually watch it on my YouTube channel.
Mhm.
It's an hour and 27 minutes long, and you know, just it's amazing. Honestly, I mean, we've been getting a lot of great reviews on it, and I've been so excited to you know have that
Was that the
honor.
first time that you actually were behind the camera? No,
Like as like
you mentioned Panther Brawl.
Panther
So
Brawl, the documentary on the. Yeah, that was the first time I ever produced something was Panther Brawl. But you know, again, I mean, it was really nothing special. I
yeah,
mean, you know, I mean, the outcome of it was just one of those things where it's like, you know, it had really no story to it, and you
nothing
know,
special, man.
well,
If you were to do something like that here in Texas,
I
football
mean,
is
yeah, but
king in
let's. I mean,
Texas.
if I were, well, no, no, no. I mean, if I were to do something, if I were to do like a Panther homecoming type documentary in for you know for a high school football team in Texas, then it'd be special. But you know, the wrestling team. I mean, the wrestling team documentary Panther Brawl. I mean, it was not that great, if you ask me. I mean, and I'm telling you, and I'm the one who produced it.
Yeah,
I mean, it just really had no story to it, and also too, I mean, the people I worked with, they were just, you know, I mean, you know, they lost every single one of their meets, and you know, they're just you know they were basic people, and you know some of them were you know they could have been a little bit better to work with, but you know I mean what are you really going to do? I mean you know
well,
you have people.
we can always open it up for reproduction, in which we now tell the story of failure, and where do we go from here?
I mean,
Ah,
you take it as a learning experience, of
yeah,
course. I mean, if
yeah,
because but I also kind of feel like, you know, looking back, I mean, maybe it wasn't that great of a documentary, but, you know, think about it. This bad documentary, you know, I mean, because think about it. What if Panther Homecoming, what if you know, let's wind the clocks back actually. What if Panther Brawl was never made? And what I did in Panther Brawl is what I did for Panther Homecoming. You know, that's in Panther Homecoming is definitely, it was not something I wanted to screw up. So I
right,
used Panther Brawl as like my learning experience. I
okay,
mean, even though I mean I wasn't the one who directed it, and the director was, you know, the director Joe Carino still a very good friend of mine. Um, you know, but I mean, what matters really is that you know Panther Homecoming came out fantastic, and you know Panther Brawl. I mean, it's forgotten, but you know, it's also a learning lesson. Something
it
I definitely
is,
will look
it
back
is.
on, and I'm thankful to have that learning lesson.
Now you also have some. You've also been in some other films in which, such as Vault, such as My Adventures with Santa,
Yeah.
and I have yet to see these two, but I did get to see some clips from them, um, and it looks like it has a pretty good storyline. Most specifically, Vault. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
Vault was based on a real story.
yeah, and so tell us a little bit about Vault. How you got involved with Vault, because you can find Vault on Amazon Prime.
Right.
So tell us
Um,
about that one.
Vault was actually the first time I ever went on a film set. I landed a role in that due to thanks to my mentor in acting. His name is David Gear. He's a very extremely outstanding, prolific film producer. He's produced movies for Lionsgate, Universal Studios. You know, he's incredible at what he does. There's
Right.
never been a disappointing movie by him. Um, so I met David Gear at a professional wrestling event in Bristol, Connecticut, and you know we were just talking it up, and ever since then he started to serve as a mentor to me, in which he you know still to this day you know serves as one, um, and you know ever since then he's been he's just so kind and generous, and you know he was telling me that there's this movie that he's the executive producer for, and it's called Vault. And when we're talking about big name actors, I'm talking Theo Rossi, Clive Standen, Chaz Palminteri, Don Johnson, some who else was there? There was Burt Young, Samira Wiley, in which I got to work with Theo Rossi, Clive Standen, Samira Wiley, and Lala Kent. I played a casino patron in the background because it was for the Las Vegas casino scene, which was filmed in the old Superman building in Providence, Rhode Island. So my first time ever doing a movie, I traveled to Providence, Rhode Island. Me and my dad were there, and we were both in the background. And I was like, it was. And then I remember I actually went to theaters in Providence, Rhode Island. Oh no, it was Warwick, Rhode Island that I went to see it in theaters with my friends at the time. And I was just like, wow, my first time doing a movie and I'm looking at it on the big screen. It's like, wow, this is the dream that I'm living. And I know there's many more to come, but when I was working on the set, it was so much fun, and Theo Rossi was amazing to work with. Theo, he was so kind and polite. And, we had like a 10-minute conversation, me, him, and my dad. And Theo and I, we took a picture together on set, and I'm just telling him about how this is my first time doing a movie, and how how passionate I am. And Theo gave me some fantastic advice, telling me that it's all about working hard and being dedicated. And I have, and he said that that I have a believer in him. If I'm willing to stay passionate and dedicated. And I definitely know I am. And Samira Wiley too. She's such a sweetheart. I gotta say, I remember she was walking past me on set, and I didn't want to like keep it for too long because we were literally on the set while the cameras were there, and I didn't want to I didn't want to kill.
You don't want to be starstruck, right?
Right, but I also said where I said I just wanted to say you are awesome, and she gives me the biggest hug, and she's just a sweetheart. I loved working with Theo. I loved working with Samira, Clive Standen, Lala Kent, Tom DiNucci, the director, Chad A. Verdi, the producer, David Gear, the executive producer. They were all a pleasure to work with on set, and every single person that was an extra with me, like my friend Michael Badajoe, who I met on that set, and we're still very close friends to this day. I loved having the opportunity to be a part of that great film.
There's some definitely some interesting names that you mentioned on there. I remember Samira from Orange Is the New Black, and she did fantastic in that series on Netflix. And it was one of those series where it was very unexpected for the way it was. When I was viewing it, I didn't expect myself to like it as much as I did. But again, it goes to tremendous acting, I think.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about the other projects that you have coming up. So the Jungle Room, man. Tell me about Jungle Room, man. Jungle Room. I'm hearing so much rave reviews about Jungle Room. I have yet to see it, but is what the reviews are saying out there true?
Yeah, Jungle Room. It's actually coming out sometime this year. I don't know when it is coming out, but I actually remember when I first heard about it. It was originally called The Find, but it got it signed a deal for production company wide Verdi Productions, and it has such amazing talent in it. It has Michael Madsen, from Reservoir Dogs, The Hateful Eight. It has Chelsea Vale in it. It has Blaise Sarah, Chris Whitcomb, Christopher C. Ramiro, and myself. I played the part of Perry in the movie. My character is also known as the brother of another character. My character's brother is this character named Ricky, who's played by AJ Bernardo, and David Gear is the producer of it. He plays Mr. Green in the film, and Vinnie Marseglia is also in the movie. He plays the killer. Michael Madsen also plays the killer. It's kind of like Halloween 1978 when Michael Myers was played by Nick Castle and Tony Moran.
Right.
Michael Madsen came in the project later on, because I think they wanted to do something where they wanted to evolve the film. And Michael Madsen, he's incredibly talented. He's a Quentin Tarantino movie regular when it comes to being in the cast. Chelsea Vale, she is phenomenal. She's a phenomenal actress. So Vinny Marseglia was, he was the character Damon, and so was Madsen. They both played the part of Damon, which is the killer of the movie. And Michael Madsen, he also did he had, there you do see Michael Madsen as Damon, but Vinny Marseglia, he also did a lot of the choreography, the killing and the stunts and everything. Like, for instance, when I was on set for Jungle Room, I was in a keg party scene, and we're all having fun, we're drinking beer, and my character's brother, Ricky, who's played by AJ Bernardo, he had a fighting scene with the killer, which was Vinny Marseglia in The Mask, and it was such a fun time. It was actually my first time having a speaking role in a feature film.
Right.
So it was a pleasure. I got to hang out with some of the cast members. I got to chat them up. We all it's awesome when you're working with a bunch of people that have the same passion as you. And I loved having the opportunity.
That's awesome, man. Again, this Jungle Room is set to premiere in 2021, right? This coming year.
Yeah. Yes.
And any streaming services that's going to have this film that you know of?
I definitely Amazon. I'm sure it'll be in theaters as well. The people that are producing it are incredible.
Right.
But as far as if it were to be I wouldn't know any otherwise. I definitely know it will be on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
But I guess that we'll just have to wait and see. When
I'll look forward to it. I'm a big horror movie junkie.
I also want to add in this too. One thing that really had me, amazed is that the film was mentioned on Deadline, which everyone knows the biggest press in Hollywood history. And because they were promoting how Michael Madsen was, has just been attached to the movie. And I scrolled down and I'm saying, Nick, it says that Chelsea Vale will also be in the movie, as well as Joey Ambrosini. And I was like, what? I got mentioned on Deadline? I honestly, and I have to thank David Gere for that as well. David, honestly, again, just a generous guy, talented film producer, he's the man, I gotta say. But just to see my name on Deadline Hollywood, that is incredible.
There's one particular thing that I'm noticing when I'm speaking to you, and it's just the way you enunciate and the way you speak. Right. How important is that? Tell our viewers how important it is to have good speaking skills.
Well, absolutely. Because that also has to do with, if you're going to do a monologue, if you're going to do an audition. It also goes in with the style of the character as well. If you were to play in a mafia movie, you're going to want that Italian sort of Brooklyn gangster style accent. If you're playing like a young kid, you're going to want, that young, I don't want to say high pitch, but to make yourself sound younger, really. And
can you make yourself younger?
This is my natural voice right here, but
right.
So really, if I'm going to sound like a young kid, I'm always getting the parts of a young kid. But
Joey, 13-year-old Joey. Let's try it. Let's hear it.
I don't think I'm getting the part for this audition.
I would think it would go something voice cracking and all.
I started when I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm 19. Yeah, I'm 19 now.
Yeah.
And but yeah, playing a 13-year-old, I don't think I'll be getting that role anytime soon.
Yeah, shoot, if you ask me, I'm looking at Joey Ambrosini right now, cleanly shaved. Wow. The kid's a good-looking kid. And he says if he was to say 13-year-old, I need a 13-year-old. I think the nervousness can definitely add to
I can play one who's just extremely tall, maybe. Sure one. I think I can do it.
There you go. You're talking more like a teenager right there. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Fumbling over words and so forth, acting all nervous and very
sure.
Hey man, you and I connected on a very on a topic of wrestling a while back, and we went
Yes.
back and we were talking wrestling, and you mentioned how like you met some of these individuals, like it's crazy how like you're at an event, and then your main goal is to go watch the event. However, what I'm capturing is that you're also networking while you're out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of professional wrestling. I grew up watching guys like John Cena, Batista, Chris Jericho, Rey Mysterio, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels and Triple H. I grew up watching these guys, and um,
It's in your
I
backyard. I mean,
mean,
you're in Connecticut, the home of Titan
yeah. Well,
Sports.
I was actually involved in a documentary about a former WWE superstar named Justin Credible. I mean, it's a good friend of mine as well. You know, it's about his recovery and redemption. It's called Credible, which is set to release, I don't know when. I mean, as far as I know, they're still in production of it. They've been in production for a few years, but I mean, it takes time to make a documentary because the
Yeah.
story, it's about, you also want to do like then, now, and future wise, I guess. I mean, but I was the first time I met Justin Credible was in 2015, but in the documentary Credible, my scene filmed in 2018. That's when I really like started to, talk to Justin, just be like, hey man, I'm Joey Ambrosini. And, we just started to, we started to connect. I mean, social media to having each other's phone number and, just
Right.
hitting each other up, just be like, hey man, how you been? I mean, he even came to one of my premieres when I did the Panther Brawl documentary. That premiered at Massac High School, and Justin came. David Gear came. AJ Bernardo came. The cinematographer that I've worked with in the past for the films that I've done, Ryan Sweeney came. And yeah, no, I mean, it's cool. It's, I mean, watching guys that you grew up with on TV, whether it's sports or movies, like for instance, I mean, I've only been to one convention in my life, which was Connecticut Horror Fest. And I got to meet a lot of insanely incredible talent. Sean Patrick Flannery, Danielle Harris, Don Shanks. One thing I will remember is this guy named, there was this actor named Doug Jones. Doug Bradley. I'm sorry, Doug Bradley. He was he was from Hellraiser, the dude who played Pinhead, and very funny guy, with his strong British accent. And I walk up to him and I shake his hand. I say, Doug, I want to tell you, man, I'm actually somewhat of an actor myself. And he's like, oh no, really? So am I. So am I. I'm an actor too. Nice to meet you. Like that's my British accent, by the way. I think I can
couldn't
pass out for
tell.
a
I
role of a
couldn't
British
tell.
guy. So I'm just like, so anyway, but I'm with my uncle and stuff, and my uncle was a huge Hellraiser fan, and he's just looking at these pictures, and he's like, they must have hurt with all the pins in your head. And Doug Brad is like saying like, what? No. Well, no, it couldn't have. It was not real. He's probably looking at my uncle like he's crazy or something. He's like saying,
Yeah.
wow, this dude will pretty much believe anything. But just a very funny guy. Sean Patrick Flannery too. I mean, such a nice guy as well. I mean, I had like a 10-minute conversation with him. And Danielle Harris, sweet girl, got a picture with her. And Don Shanks, I actually have a Michael Myers replica mask that Don Shanks signed because he played Michael Myers in Halloween 5. And I'm a huge horror fan. Horror fan.
Yeah.
I love horror
Which one is
movies.
your favorite horror movie? I mean, if you could pick one, which one
I
would it
would
be?
say it would be Halloween, but not the original, the one in 2007, the one
The most recent one.
2007.
Yeah.
Huh?
The
one that
recent
Rob
one?
Zombie made, the remake
Yeah,
of it.
yeah, yeah.
But I mean, the originals were definitely better. But the reason that's my favorite, I mean, because I have a modern mind.
Uh-huh.
Tyler Mane, I mean, he definitely was the most menacing looking Michael Myers. But again, that's thinking modern there. I mean, how I also loved the mask, how it was all ripped up and tear to shreds, and but it also had more intensity to it. It's like, it definitely was inspired by the original story, of course, and it used scenes that were in the original story, but they also obviously switched it up a bit. And I gotta say, when it comes to writing horror movies, Rob Zombie, he is a sick dude. I gotta say, I mean,
Yeah.
that dude has a mind of oh my God, I couldn't even say the word. It's just that dude is messed up, dude. But
well, I mean, but then again, it goes back to like he's immersed himself in that culture since for as long as I can remember, ever since he's been with White Zombie, and then he went into did his own solo projects with Rob Zombie and so forth. And then when he got into filmmaking, like wow, like everything that was in your mind, you just were able to portray it, and that takes a lot of talent. And
right.
we similarly asked the same thing, like can it be replicated? Yeah, it can. I mean, but
I mean,
it
it's
takes a
got to be
certain
hard to,
individual. Yeah.
it's
Hey,
definitely got to be tough.
let
It's
me
definitely
ask.
got to be tough to remake a film.
Yeah. Oftentimes, I always say like just leave the original alone. Stop remaking. We don't want to see any remakes.
I mean, I'm sure there are definitely horror movies that never received a remake that, that should have a remake. It'd be awesome to see. Like Friday the 13th, that remake was sick. Um, Nightmare on Elm Street, that one was, I mean, I enjoyed it, but, I mean, it's like, I think that there were a lot of things that you could have done better with that movie. But Robert Englund will always be Freddy Krueger. The dude from the originals,
Yeah,
he will
yeah.
always be Freddy Krueger. There's not a
Hey,
doubt in my mind.
one thing I did want to ask you is the most recent documentaries that I was able to see, the one on the Night Stalker, and then followed by the one about the hotel in Los Angeles. And it goes back to what you were talking about, having a sick mind. And what I was gonna get to was like you have to, and one has to play the character or put themselves in the mind of what the killer would do. But when you look at this Night Stalker guy, that guy was sadistic.
I mean,
Wow.
the Night Stalker, that I mean, my parents were telling me about it. I mean, the dude, I mean, he looked more menacing than Charles Manson did, I gotta say. I mean, like that's like I mean his eyes how they were pitch black and stuff. He had the
The pentagram on
the
his hand, yeah.
yeah, it's like, oh my God, like this dude is definitely he's like a nightmare type
Well,
guy, and it's like, oh my God.
and I think the fear for parents always strikes people like, will they hurt my family? Will they hurt my children?
You
And
know,
sure enough, that's what it is, and that's what strikes fear into America, I would think.
I mean, yeah, I mean that's sort of debatable. I mean, because there are a lot of people out there that that don't believe in that kind of stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I personally do, but it's like, and because of that, I definitely would not, I couldn't imagine what it would be like being in that kind of situation. But, the Night Stalker, that thing was just, oh my God. I refuse to even watch it because, I probably won't fall asleep.
Oh, and so then I followed it up by with the other one, the one with where they talk about the hotel, the oh man, that hotel in Los Angeles where the Night Stalker used to stay at. So this hotel, it's like they have it's two different lives pretty much. You got the poshy side that's on hotels.com, and then they have all these tenants that are homeless, live on Skid Row, and they live past a certain floor.
Right.
And this one individual, like, they ended up finding her in a tank up on the tower, and they were like, "Well, how'd she get up there?" Well, it was very easy because there was like a door. She got up to the last floor. Needless to say, man, I mean, there's so many sick stories out there, so many sick people out there, and you know,
Yeah.
but they make for good horror movies. What can I say?
You're not wrong.
No. Hey, so wrestling is a big passion. I mean, that's in your backyard. Let's talk a little shop on wrestling. You grew up in that area, Connecticut. You got to meet some individuals that you. I mean, when you were telling me about these individuals that you're friends with, I was just like, it makes sense because I mean you're in the area, but at the same time, like, how does that work for an individual that's as young as yourself? How
uh,
does one do that?
I don't know really, I guess. I guess that, it's kind of a thing where it's like if they see you at all these shows and stuff, they'll remember
Hmm.
you and they'll shake your hand, they'll just be like, "Hey, how's everything been?" and stuff. And I mean, I don't really think there's really like a technique of doing it, unless you want to count maybe just going to, all different kinds of shows that these same guy that, these guys are booked for every show.
Right.
I really know how to explain it really. I guess I mean, well, the Just Incredible was more from networking with, on the sets and stuff, being in his documentary. But Teddy Long, who's another friend of mine, the former general manager of SmackDown, him was more, attending shows and stuff, and just keeping in touch, and he's a great guy, I gotta say. I mean, I love Teddy. He's awesome. I even remember him when while growing up watching wrestling, and he was the general manager of SmackDown.
Yeah.
He gave the holla holla holla, and he always liked to torture Chris Jericho around, and it was like one of those things where it's like a fun rivalry to watch, but one is between a guy in office and the other is a wrestler.
Yeah, just the other day, I was listening to a podcast with the Undertaker, and he was on there telling his story, and I was just like in awe, because obviously, I grew up watching the Undertaker, I grew up watching Hulk Hogan, I grew up watching the Macho Man Randy Savage. To me, that's my reference point of wrestling. And when I look at it, when I look at wrestling now, which I just recently started getting back into wrestling, to just to view a little bit here and there. I got to see Royal
How can you
Rumble.
get back into wrestling when they just made The Miz the champion?
I I saw that just occurred. I'm not a Miz fan, so Miz, if you're listening and if you're watching, hey man, I don't like your character, but we can definitely podcast about it.
I mean, you can't. It's like that's the problem with like WWE nowadays. It's like WWE is like Disney World now, but it's like you can't even pick. I mean, I wouldn't know, but it's like I mean, I know people who even say they would not want to be in WWE because it's like you can't even pick your gimmick. It's like, and now they got All Elite Wrestling, which is like, sort of competing with WWE, but it's like, you're not really going to win that competition. I mean, with the amount of years WWE's been around, they got a lot of money. Vince McMahon, love him or hate him, he's the greatest wrestling promoter, but it's like, I don't know. I can't really pin it on the wrestlers, because like the wrestlers aren't the ones who make the matches.
Right.
I mean, one thing for sure, I do know this is that, I don't know if you're familiar with TNA Impact Wrestling, but that organization is just outright outright awful. And
well, I mean, who was running it? Dixie Carter was running it, and Jeff Jarrett was running it, right?
Yeah, and one of the roster that was in TNA, he went by the Monster Abyss. As far as I'm concerned, he's one of the writers for WWE. It's like you were a part of the roster of one of the worst organizations, and now you're writing WWE. It's like that's a big mistake on WWE's hand right there. But it's like they don't allow these guys to pick their game. I mean, because I can think of a lot of wrestlers that deserve that championship. Hey, I think that maybe if the Miz was more exciting, I mean, yeah, then I'd probably want to see him as champion. But it's like he's got, he has no charisma to him. Like, I mean, for instance, Dolph Ziggler. That dude, he's had the same gimmick for decades. It's like, you don't want to see this anymore. You want storylines that are exciting.
I mean, who I'm excited about? I'm sorry to interject here, but the one guy that I'm seeing right now is Riddle.
Matt Riddle, yeah, the former UFC fighter. I mean, I think that, Riddle is, I don't want to say he's a newcomer, but it's like once he gets like more exciting storylines. But the thing is, though, I also hate it when I'm watching WWE and they overuse these guys like Brock Lesnar. I don't like Brock. I mean, I loved him in UFC, and I enjoyed watching him when he was in WWE. But it's like, come on, nobody wants to see Brock Lesnar as the champion for this long. Like right. Goldberg, nobody wants to see Goldberg as champion today. It's not about. Because they rely on their past way too much, but at least put them in storylines that are worth seeing now. Like, for instance, like Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is awesome. But it's like, he's been getting better storylines. I say, like, he's like WrestleMania 37 coming up. He's got his match with Edge. I think that's going to be awesome to see. But, Drew McIntyre, The Fiend, like The Fiend is honestly awesome. I love that gimmick. That's the kind of wrestling personas they need. Randy Orton, probably the best wrestler in the current roster. I would say I'm a huge Randy Orton fan. My favorite wrestler is John Cena, but I'm not really going to say he's the best in today's current roster because I'm not really going to count him as a current roster because, I mean, kind of like The Undertaker. The Undertaker's retired now, but Undertaker would show up like once a year and stuff, and I feel like that's what Cena's going to be doing. So,
and
not
you know
really going
what?
to count him.
And this is one of the items that I keep on when it comes to Cena. Cena's a great guy. I think he's the highest Make-A-Wish
Yeah.
Foundation celebrity that gets picked often, and that's an admirable thing. And my respect to John Cena. But one thing I do add to, and I don't know how much of this is his fault, but the PG culture of wrestling, most specifically the WWF or the WWE, excuse me, is credited to John Cena.
Well, I mean, well, are we talking about like to this day it's still to him?
Yes.
Well, think about it though. There are really no wrestlers, even in this current roster, that makes as much money as John Cena does. I mean, John Cena is the highest paid wrestler, and John Cena has always been my favorite. I also look up to John Cena as like a hero, not like in life, really. That man and what he stands for, I respect it. I mean, but also too, I mean, it's like I guess it's time for John Cena to stop wrestling. I mean, because
and he did,
just,
right?
I mean, he's still on the current roster apparently.
Okay.
I mean, but it's like he's a part-timer now, but it's like a part-timer that's only going to show up like I don't know, because he's doing a lot in Hollywood right now too. And I mean, that's awesome. I mean, John Cena is not a bad actor in movies either, but I mean, when it comes to wrestling, it's like who's really left, who is there for him to face nowadays? It's like none of these guys are exciting. I mean, it's like they could be exciting, but that's WWE's fault because they write they write terrible storylines.
Well, and this is another thing that I was observing. So, I recently saw the Yokozuna Icons, and I don't know how many Icon series are going to be coming out. I watched it with intrigue because I said, well, Yokozuna, I grew up watching Yokozuna as well. And then I knew about this dynasty of the Samoan dynasty that was involved with the Samoas, the Head Shrinkers, Yokozuna, Dwayne the Rock Johnson, Roman Reigns. What's that girl's name? The Rock's cousin. She's one of the tag team champions now.
Nia Jax.
And all of these.
I also want to say the Usos.
The Usos, right? And Rikishi. All these individuals are connected some way, somehow, and all these individuals were the ones getting pushes. They were being moved to the top. So, how much of this is actually political?
What do you mean by political?
Like, okay, there's somebody pushing for them to go. Well, obviously, it was revealed in the Icon that Vince McMahon has a soft spot for this family.
Like basically you're saying how Vince McMahon could favor these people.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's because, it's a huge family tree and just, think about it. I mean,
business-wise,
starting from the top, like with Rikishi and Yokozuna, they probably, they definitely influenced guys we have now, like Roman Reigns, the Usos stuff. Like they probably all trained together. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, like look at the Hart family: Bret Hart, Owen Hart, Natalia, and also too now they got Ric Flair with his daughter, Charlotte Flair. They overuse her too much. They only like keep giving her all these opportunities because she's Ric Flair's daughter.
Right.
I'm not saying that Ric Flair is one of the greatest champions of all time.
Probably the greatest champion of all time.
If Charlotte Flair was not related to Ric Flair, then she wouldn't be getting all these opportunities. I mean, but also too, I remember when WWE, they had all the beautiful women and stuff like the Bella Twins, Trish Stratus and stuff. I mean, what we have now, I mean, they're skillful wrestler. I remember Ronda Rousey.
How do you feel
they actually went from divas to superstars. They're no longer called divas.
How do you feel about that connection between UFC and the transit and working with UFC to try to bring the fighters into the WWE and WWE going into UFC? Because I believe I've heard somewhere that was a partnership.
I mean, well, I don't know. I didn't hear anything about it being a partnership, but I mean, but you could be right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I really don't follow much with, those kinds of connections and stuff because, I mean, I don't watch wrestling as much as I used to back then. But
Yeah.
Like with Ronda Rousey, I mean, she was awesome in the UFC, but the next thing you know, she loses this one fight against, I can't remember the opponent's name, but it was her last fight. She loses that fight, and next thing you know, she's done with UFC forever. It's like, come on, like we win some, we lose some.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, look at Conor McGregor. McGregor talked a lot of crap about the WWE. I know that, but hey, dude, you can't. I'm not gonna hate McGregor. McGregor is my favorite UFC fighter.
Well, and not only that, because going back to that, like we live to see another fight, and hopefully he can come back from the loss to Khabib, and which we were trying to see, can he come back? And now we saw that Poirier
He did come back.
Well, he did, but Poirier took him out.
I mean, he had, he knocked out Cowboy Cerrone in 40 seconds.
Yeah.
He just lost to Dustin Poirier in their second round. I think they're talking about Poirier and McGregor 3. But yeah. I do have to say this, though. I know Khabib is undefeated, and he's a great fighter. But I don't care what anybody says. When him and McGregor fought, that was not the Conor McGregor I know, okay? McGregor was not prepared for that fight, all right? I mean, that was not Conor McGregor. That was a whole different Conor McGregor, one I would never want to see fighting again, because I'd rather see Conor lose but put up a fight than him lose and not put up a fight. I mean, but it's, I mean, I'd never want to see McGregor lose, of course, yeah. But, after he fought Floyd Mayweather, I mean, he got $75 million from it. He was probably just, screwing around with his money. And, I mean, I don't really think he was that prepared, but I do believe that if he were to fight Khabib again, I mean, would he win? I think probably. Most people would say, hell no, Khabib would, wipe the floor with McGregor. I don't know, but there is actually been a lot of talk that McGregor's going to get back in the boxing ring to go against Manny Pacquiao.
That's what I hear, man. But and you know what? If he does, I really hope he comes out to this one song called "Social Orphan."
Social. Okay, I think I know where we're going.
Let me play this song, man. Just imagine Conor McGregor walking out to this song. Here we go.
Okay.
Think about it, redemption.
Yeah. Just a prince with a vision of a king. Goddamn, I remember looking back, waiting for a better thing. Now we burning up like iridescent. Better pay attention, up and coming like a couple of. Goddamn, never looking at my path. That's a life sentence, like a castle hill. Only if you let it. Women lie, men lie, but numbers would never do. All I wanna do is reach a thing never seen. Goddamn, I remember being banned, but those memories are vanished. If I'm in my mansion, looking at these empty rooms, I would never panic, cause I got something money cannot buy. And that is you know what I mean? And that's the truth. This is the start of my bloodline. I'll be leading the charge, and when it does come time, I'll be leading the dark. Now it's my time, we finish what we started. One day they will know my story, goddamn, oh yeah.
Conor McGregor, if you're listening, man, I can definitely see you walking out to this song, man. This is definitely a redemption song. I would love for you to see this, man. And now, coming down the ring, after losing the death to Poirier.
Man, I never pick a place when I've been battling with demons, running out of my plane. But I'm driven to succeed. They'll be y'all now treated, cause I'm changing up my style. This is my story, my glory, my rhymes, goddamn. You can feel the hunger like I'm in a lunch line. You can say 100 times, you know how I feel. But bitch, it's my time, got nothing to conceal. Had this vision when I wrote my first line, oh yeah.
It's a perfect song for you, Conor. You really need to walk out.
I'm not going to disagree with that.
So when he fights, who are we talking that he's going to fight? Manny Pacquiao.
Manny Pacquiao. Well, I mean, I think that's. I mean, it's supposed
Man,
to
this is for the orphan kids coming from the orphanage. You know how it feels just to feel they be ignoring shit. You gotta believe like no one else is there. You gotta see it before anybody else, cause that's truth. Fake people avoid at all costs nowadays. I don't focus on the little things. I got bigger, they focus on my vision kind of thing until we see what it brings, and I'll be damned. Oh yeah, I'll be facing my fears instead of hanging with my peers. Nowadays, things seem closer than they really appear. I'm the one, now they be fair and look, I got it. I just gotta stay focused and do it for the kids that be feeling hopeless. You know this is all year, all year. You know this all year, all year. And now we burn it up like iridescent up and coming like a trouble legend now. See if they can stop us now.
Wow, man, that's Social Orphan by Dean Frost, man. Have you heard of that song, man? It's a wonderful song.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I have before. Actually, it's funny you bring that up. Actually, yeah, no, I definitely. I'm actually very close friends with Dean. It was this past Monday. We actually filmed the music video for that.
Nice. When's it gonna premiere?
I think I want to say mid-March. So I mean, the director, who's also the cinematographer and the editor, he's a fast guy, but he's quality at what he does.
Right.
It was honestly really fun to film. I honestly, awesome. It was my first ever time doing a music video. So yeah.
And what specifically? I mean, you know what? We'll just wait till it comes out because I'm sure it's gonna be a dope video. I swear to God. Like.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I play this sort of cyborg character called J-Borg. You know, it's actually fits me pretty well, I think.
Yeah, it does.
I worked opposite Edward Durgo, who also happens to be Dean Frost's manager. But Dean as an artist, he is incredible, I gotta say. I mean, he's been doing music for a little over a year now, and he's insanely talented. I mean, I gotta give it all up to Dean. I mean, he's got a passion, I mean, he tells a great story, which is, which is honestly what rap, I think. Well, I don't really want to say he's rap. I mean, he's more like he's rap, electro pop alternative, but rap in general today, I mean, rap is not as good as it used to be.
Let's just say to me, that's mainstream, but it's also something that I can pump myself up to.
Yeah, it's like dance music. It's like, EMD, I think they call it.
EDM.
EDM.
Electro dance music, yes. But yes. Hey, man, I would love to have Dean Frost on the show. I would love to do a segment with him. So maybe in the near future, hey, Dean, if you're listening, I would love to see you here on the Joe's Bot podcast, and we can definitely talk about your music and your sound. But I'm telling you, man, Conor, if you're listening, Conor McGregor, that is a great song for you to walk out to. I kid you not, man. The message is there.
Hype, it's the
message is there. Like, hey, I'm redeeming myself for what happened. Here I am. The numbers don't lie. I mean, I was listening to the lyrics and I'm like, man, this is awesome. All right, man. Hey, I heard that the jungle, that you're gonna be also in the sequel.
Jungle Room, yeah.
You're gonna there's gonna be a sequel to it, and you're also gonna be in it. Is that true?
I mean, I'm not really supposed to give away much about the film, but I guess that, I mean, you asked, it's my job to answer. Yes, I will be returning for the sequel of it. So, Joey Ambrosini will be reprising his role in Jungle Room 2.
I'm so excited for you. I'm excited for you. I'm sure everybody, the world is excited for you. Joey, it's been wonderful having you here today. It's been a pleasure. We talked a little bit about your career in film. We talked a little bit about what got you there and so forth. And we're also talking about, hey, wrestling, but most importantly, like stuff that can definitely help out other people. The goal here is always to listen to your story and also reference it so that we can help others. That's the goal here at the Joe's Bot podcast. And you know what? I really appreciate it. With that being said, Joey Ambrosini, everybody give it up for Joey Ambrosini. We'll be here pretty soon and we'll talk later. Joey, maybe we can have another segment pretty soon in the near future after
Absolutely.
the Jungle Room premieres. I would love to have you.
Absolutely, my friend. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right. See you next time. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you soon. Have a good one.